back to That Stupid Podcast. Rev here. I got
Tess.
And it is Wednesday, June 25th, 2014, which means it's Wildcard Wednesday. Today, you'll notice RJ's not here.
No. Yeah.
Tess is here as he's introduced himself.
Yeah, way much longer hair.
A little bit.
Way much. That's a technical term.
Tiny bit. So you have this thing that the people once upon a time in the late 90s called a blog. I don't know what we're supposed to call it anymore.
I think we still call it a blog.
Do we still call it?
Yeah, no, it's still
but
a web blog.
According to the little girl in the White House down, people don't say blog anymore.
What the hell did I say?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I mean, I guess you could call it by its various brand names, a WordPress site or a live journal. But I mean, if you're writing on a live journal, I'm probably not reading you.
It's a place, yestest.wordpress.com, where you insightfully tell the internet how you feel about things.
Occasionally insightfully, occasionally I ramble. Sometimes I get foaming at the mouth, apoplectically angry in text, and, well, I hope that translates. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes. Well, so what have you got for us today, sir?
So I had, I try to post every week, but I didn't for a while. One, because there was my birthday in there, and I spent 5 hours working on a car, and then the rest of the time drinking, because it was my birthday. And then...
That's a good reason.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking about this. When, we had... And I don't remember his name, and if I did, I wouldn't say it because he's a hard little schmuck that went on the shooting spree out in California, and then everybody found his YouTube videos that were crazy, entitled, misogynistic. Yeah. That cocksucker, right? I think I'll just say he's a prick, and we'll move on from him, but the fallout from what happened with him, some interesting things happened. One, you got more of a conversation about the kind of underlying misogyny that happens in America constantly. It's been with us forever. It's so it's so constant that nobody notices it anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've always had as American society, I think we've always had a very schizophrenic relationship with like nudity and pornography and women versus men, and how we in the media, we talk about it. Ash and I talk about it in games. We talk about it in movies.
Yeah, and it's
even books,
and it's generally a fucked up situation. And if you think about it at all, you'll notice it. But a lot of people don't think about it. It doesn't get a lot of press, and this episode brought press to it.
Yeah. So. Well, it's, and a good example of that too is last week's is it Entertainment Weekly, I think. I don't remember the magazine, but. Had a picture of Stephen Moyer and Anna Paquin from True Blood. Yeah. And he is fully clothed. She is completely naked, draped over him like an accessory.
Well, that's probably visually quite appealing because Anna Paquin's gorgeous.
Well, but I mean, but from a standpoint of just for argument's sake, why wasn't Stephen Moyer naked?
Well, see, I like was it Rolling Stone where it's Stephen Moyer and Alexander Skarsgård and Anna Paquin in a naked blood sandwich. Right. And
this is essentially that same pose. But Skarsgård's not in it. It's just the two, and then Stephen Moyer's not naked. But they are in a coffin like they were in that one too from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, because I remember that one. Yeah. And it kind of reminds me of that. It's almost the opposite of the Yoko Ono Rolling Stones cover from the 70s where Yoko's fully clothed. And John Lennon's all naked, curled up. But but it's just so weird.
It is weird. It's and that's another discussion that needs to happen. Yeah. Is the why is it that we sell products so well by sexually objectifying women?
Right.
I love women. I do. I don't. That's one of the things. I mean, maybe it's because I was raised by a single mother, and I just don't get misogyny. But I don't get racism either. I don't get the idea that any person, based on gender or skin color or bone structure,
to put into
I never
exactly
since the age where I could think about these things in any meaningful way. It never occurred to me that because of some phenotype, physical trait that somebody was, or difference that somebody was any less capable or whatever. So it's one of those things I don't get.
Right.
And the problem you have with things you don't get is that because you don't get them, because it's hard to wrap your mind around, it's easy to push them so far back that you don't pay too much attention to them. And there are a lot of people, and you probably know somebody out there who is the type of person that has done that so thoroughly that they don't really understand it exists anymore. I'm kind of obsessively intellectually rigorous, and so my brain just won't do that. My brain is I do doubt really well, and so when I'm certain about something, my brain goes, "Really? Are you sure? Have you not looked at it?" And so it got me thinking about the kind of underlying misogyny. And in my blog post, I try to direct people to go to the Twitter #YesAllWomen. Go to that if you want some eye-opening stuff, because there are a lot of people posted tweets talking about their experience or talking about their fears, and it brought all that to the surface. And I thought a lot about the misogyny in America, and I was thinking, what happens? I mean, it flies so below the radar that most people think it's the ground, right? It's kind of it's that background noise, that rhythmic noise that you tune out after a while, but it's still there, and you don't really notice it until it either gets really loud or goes away. Right? When we look at misogyny in America, and if you don't know what that word means, go look it up. Do yourself a favor. We look at it in America. You have these peak moments where it comes to the forefront, and this shooting,
when an event happens.
Brought it up. And in the last, I mean, this has been how long ago? A month and a half, 2 months, maybe.
About 7 or 8 weeks.
Yeah, it's not been too long. Yeah. As a reference, the school shooting at the Middleton?
Middletown. Middleton. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong.
We're still talking about that a year or so later, usually under the auspices of gun control. But this guy going out and shooting people and having this attitude.
Yeah. Well, this was also the guy who showed up at the ranch in Arizona. The baker was a baker.
No, different guy. No, that's the couple that shot the cops in Vegas.
Sorry, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
And that ranch thing's a whole. That's a whole different thing. But it's easy to forget that this is kind of a substrate of our culture. This kind of patriarchal bullshit, double standard, is a substrate of our culture. And I keep thinking, how do you deal with that? How do you change that for the better? And usually you see one of two things happening. Usually you see people who go, misogyny's bad, don't do it, move on, let's talk about whatever's going on. And that's one of the things that's pissed me off recently, is that this is so recent, and yet you don't hear about it in the news anymore. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's, maybe if you dig deep enough on the internet, you're going to find something, but nobody cares in a large general sense, in a media sense, because I guess because it's not pulling in ratings anymore.
Well, I think a lot of it too. I mean, and to veer off for a second and talk more about different movements and causes and whatnot, because this weekend we're taping this obviously ahead of time. This is like the 50th anniversary of the equal rights, some significant equal rights improvements. Lyndon Johnson signing into law the now defunct law that kind of killed restrictions on voting, so that African Americans couldn't vote because these states had these crazy restrictions, and that was signed into law to abolish that. That was 50 years ago this week, right? So I mean. But I only bring that up, which is something totally different, because it's from a historical perspective, it's similar. Whether it's women's rights, whether it's LGBT rights, whether it's rights by race, rights by creed, doesn't matter, or in this case, just misogyny against women. Whatever the topic is, if there's a movement, it happens, it goes along. There's a defining point in history, And then we don't talk about it anymore.
Yeah,
and, it's kind of weird. And a good example is the voter registration stuff, because that was repealed a few years back. And what's the first thing that happens? We've got like 17 states now that are just like
crap voter ID laws trying to basically rig the game so that one side or the other wins.
But we're not talking about it because
no.
That was 50 years ago. We're past it. We're better people now.
Yeah, and that stuff drives me crazy, and I think this is all of a piece in that.
You think this is a similar situation though? It's why people aren't talking about it. Though.
I think it's not sexy to the media, and so the media is finding other stuff that's going to get the headlines and get the viewers for the ad revenues. Yeah. But look at women's rights, minorities' rights, gay rights, any of those things we've made great headway on since about 1940 something. Right. And people, you're right. What we tend to get from people is they tend to think, all right, we've done that and we're past it now. It's like no. Every once in a while you need to remind yourself about it, and remind other people, and you need to talk about it, because new generations. I was not there.
Yeah,
I was not there when the Civil Rights Act was passed, right? Yeah. I learned about it in school. I didn't get to go to any marches or be in any bus protests. Right. Anybody from my generation or later, it would be easy for us to not pay attention to it, to not keep it in our heads as something like, I'm a straight white male. It would be so easy for me to think that the rest of the world has the kind of nascent advantages that I have, and that's just not true.
Right.
Women, minorities, homosexuals, they just don't.
Right.
But I walk around every day.
Minorities.
Yeah.
Who are also Native American. That have disabilities.
Oh.
I mean, that's.
I mean,
I feel bad for that person.
That's it. You rolled the dice wrong on that one. Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm making light of it a little bit, but it's. I agree with you. At the end of the day, I mean, it is an interesting situation, and you're right. I mean, I think I do that too. I think I sometimes forget how easy, I guess, I have it. Is the easiest way to say that, right?
John Scalzi wrote a great post on it on whatever.com, his blog. Mm-hmm. And he's talking about the metaphor is if life were a video game, straight white males would be playing on the easy setting and everybody else would be on different difficulty settings. But it's true. It's true. Unless I wear really strange clothing and walk through really strange neighborhoods, I can walk through a neighborhood. I might worry about getting mugged, but I'm not worried about the cops mugging me.
Right. You're not going to get arrested for driving a car that looks like you shouldn't be driving. You're not going to get pulled over for...
If I'm dressed sexy and hanging out on the sidewalk, a cop is not going to ask me if I'm a prostitute.
Right.
That's not going to happen. If I go to a job interview, right, and I'm being interviewed by another man, I'm not thinking about, well, maybe he's giving me preferential treatment because he's got these gender ideas in his head. All right, but I damn sure know women are thinking that when they interview with a man, or sometimes with women, and that's because it's this pervasive undercurrent.
And it's really one-sided. It's really, really one-sided.
It is.
I mean, you can say it, but to your point about a woman on an interview, she's not just worried that maybe that guy might give preferential treatment to the guy that's interviewing against her. She's also worried about this guy. Is he creepy?
Yeah.
Is he trying to, I don't know. I can't comprehend, because I'm not a woman. I can't literally comprehend all of the thought processes and emotions that go into what I guess I would consider extremely mundane tasks of life.
Oh, yeah. No,
right?
There was... I remember I got a job at a gas station once, and my boss was a lady. I did the interview, and I didn't think anything about it. But weeks later, after I got hired, I remember talking to one of my other female coworkers, and she was like, yeah, I told her she needed to hire you because you had a great ass. And I was like... I guess that's a compliment, but you think about that. Well, that's not something a guy's thinking about unless maybe he's interviewing at a gay strip club. I don't know. If you're trying to be a bartender at a gay bar, maybe that matters. But for the most part, we don't think about that. But everybody else in that situation really would. It doesn't fit this specific category. And the blog I wrote about it is it's funny at times because humor is my weird way of dealing with things, so I don't like try to set people on fire. But I'm looking at this undercurrent of misogyny, and you see it's dealt with two ways. People either, it's bad, don't do it, let's move on to something that's a less uncomfortable topic, or it's you hear someone who has been perpetrated against rattling off a list of their stories of various levels of abuse, from mundane to egregious, and those have their place, right? And it's educational, but and it helps build empathy and compassion, but what I don't think it does is I don't think it gets to what we want if we are going to continue as a country to say everyone's equal. I don't think it gets to that. I think how we do that is twofold. First, when you see it happening, you have to be aware enough to see it. When you see it happening, call bullshit on it. Stand up and as loud as you need to, as loud as you want to, tell this is wrong and this is why it's wrong. If you have to make a logical argument, do it. I don't think you'll change the mind of the person perpetrating the misogyny, but it's important for the other people watching, to see someone arguing against it, to see someone fighting against it, because that's who we are as human beings. We can think something's a great idea, but because we're so socially oriented, unless we see someone doing something about it, quite often we just won't. I mean, it's the...
when you see somebody being wronged, your fight or flight kind of response kicks in, and, if no one takes fight, everyone takes flight. If one person takes fight, sometimes you get... now, granted, it can go bad, too, because sometimes that fight turns into... You get that mob mentality, and that's not what we want either.
No.
But... No. But to your point, I agree. You have to stand up for just basic human decency. Standing up for your fellow man, and I use the word man not as in male, but as in human, right? Standing up for your fellow human being when they're getting. And I don't just mean beat up physically.
No.
Beat up verbally, getting fired for having boobs.
Being bullied. Yeah, I saw what was that? That one, there was a story on the internet about a lady who was suing her employer because her employer was a male and his wife made him fire her because she was too good looking. And she sued for discrimination, as she should. Right? Because that's nonsense.
Right.
It assumes something that isn't happening, and I think the story later on when they recapped it said that the court ruled in favor of the business, that it wasn't discrimination. I'm like, really? What? Really?
I don't know that story.
Yeah, it was all over the Huffington Post for a while. So the first of two things is stand up against it. Be aware of it when you see it, when it's happening.
Learn to identify it.
Yeah, identify it, stand up. And it's easy to identify. It's really easy to identify because even if you don't know it's there, it's probably going to make you feel a little queasy.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to feel good looking at it or witnessing it. Yeah. And when that happens, stand up and say something. Do something, whatever you feel is appropriate at that moment, but make the statement so that other people see it, so that something is done. Right. And so the people who are victims of it know they're not alone.
Right.
And the second part of it is to, in order to, I mean, you can't just cut a tree off at the stump and do nothing. I mean, the odds are it'll crash down on your house, cave in your roof, and stab you with branches, and then shoots will come up out of the ugly stump anyways, right? To belabor the metaphor, you have to cut it off starting from the top at the branches bit by bit, down to the bottom, and then grind the stump, plant something else there. So standing up against this stuff is the pruning part, where we take it apart piece by piece. The other thing we have to do is we have to put something in its place, something better in its place. Yeah. My general idea is to tell your stories, not just to tell your stories, to tell your personal experience, to tell your thoughtful opinions about things, so that other people are encouraged to do the same thing, so that other people step in to fill the gap in the same way. I mean, you really lead by example.
I can appreciate that. I mean, I'm someone who tells my story. You know, I mean, I have a weight. Mine's about weight loss, but I mean, you know, I share once or so a month. I try to post an update, not nearly as much as you, but you know, about once a month I write something, and yeah, because I know from someone who struggled with losing weight for a long time, now getting to the point where I've lost, you know, 280 pounds, sharing that story if it reaches someone else. So I can see this as, you know, taking that and transposing it to the situation. Just if you've been a victim, or well, especially if you've been a victim, but even if you haven't been a victim, but you've watched someone who was victimized and saw someone who stood up for that person, share that story. Because that's a good story too, and you know, absolutely. So I'm with you. I totally.
Sometimes your stories will give hope. Sometimes inspiration. Sometimes you will wake somebody up to something they hadn't thought of before.
Right.
And what I do with the later part of the post is I talk about a particular form of misogyny that really bugs me, and unfortunately, women are more. They're so ingrained with this substrate of misogyny that women are more guilty of it than almost anyone else I've ever seen, and that's slut shaming.
Slut shaming
drives me crazy.
Yeah, it's really weird. And that was kind of like, yeah, I don't understand this.
I don't get it either. It's like someone has, and we're talking about anybody with a healthy sexual appetite. Nymphomaniacs are not sluts. They have a mental disorder. Right. They literally have a disorder.
No, you're just talking about someone who is sexually active. Literally.
Yeah. Whether it be one partner or multiple partners. I know a lot of people like to say slut is multiple partners, and I mean we get into the connotations of things, but it's someone who engages in sexual activity more than whatever our vaguely conservative-leaning nation thinks is appropriate.
So weird. Yeah, if you have sex more than twice a week, you're a whore. You know? I mean, what?
Yeah, no, I don't get it either. I was like, you really think? I mean, but before the advent of controlling aspects of organized religion, you really think our ancestors weren't doing it like rabbits? Really? We don't have teeth or claws or camouflage. The only way we made it is imagination and numbers.
And with the, you know, and we kind of wrap things a little bit too, but with the slut shaming, the one single biggest one that gets me, or maybe two, right? The first one is the proverbial walk of shame, which men don't have, only women do.
Yes, I never understood that
I don't either.
I was like, it's the walk of shame. No, I'm just going home. I just didn't feel like staying there and using their shower.
Right. It's like, but if a woman walks out of a man's apartment, or if you're in college dorm room, or
oh my God,
which is worse, by the way. You know, it's just this.
I'm 36 years old. I'm a senior in college, and so I see a lot of young people who are 18, 19 years old starting to learn how to be adults and have individual relationships. And I have early morning classes quite often, so I see often a lot of these people walk around like, please don't look at me. Please don't look at me. I was like, cares? Are you nuts? Strut down the street. Strut. Yeah. What?
Because who honestly gives a damn?
Well, I'm going to tell you.
I don't care if you had sex last night. It's not my damn business.
I'm going to tell you, when I see someone call somebody else a slut in a hateful manner, and I mean, I have plenty of friends that do that to each other, and they're being friends with each other, and they're being funny. But when I see people do it in a derisive manner, there's usually two motivations behind it, and it's usually easy to tell from the person who's saying it's body language. Yeah. Either they're jealous or they're covetous. So either they want that person and feel like they can't have them, or they want that person's life and feel like they can't have it. And nothing makes a human being hate something more than wanting it and not being able to have it.
That's true.
And
very true.
I personally am a slut. I am. I've been in for the last 12 years. The majority of that time was spent in 2 long-term monogamous relationships. That's just how it worked out. A great deal of my life was not spent like that. But I didn't feel any shame about it. And the funny thing is that there were people, even in this male-dominated ideology culture, there were people that still wanted me to be ashamed of that. And I'm like, no, screw you. You know, it's your life. You be ashamed of it. I'm not interested in it. And I came to the realization while I was thinking about this is that the way I dealt with it personally was just to own it. I was like, do something about it. This is, sure, right. You want to call me a slut, go ahead, I don't care.
But coming back to the fact that it is a male-dominated world, you can get away with that.
Yeah, no, and I had lots of female friends who couldn't. And the funny thing is that I've always admired people who lived the way they wanted to live and owned it and weren't ashamed of it.
Yeah,
and I always
for
thought,
you, not for someone else.
Well, I always thought that's the way to be.
Sure, yeah, no, I
that's
agree.
why would you want to be in it? Those are the people who have always been my heroes. They were like, they live that way and they're joyous about it. They're not hiding in a closet about it. But yeah, I see just. The other thing that bothers me about slut shaming is sex is, and I don't know if you know this or not, one of the basic facets of human existence. It is literally...
It's kind of a requirement for
food,
human existence.
Shelter, social group comfort, sex. That's pretty much what we do other than work.
You wouldn't be here if someone didn't have sex.
No, that's true. That's true. Well, I never, but your mama and your daddy did. So, I don't get why.
So
why we would use anyone's sexuality as a truncheon to bludgeon them with. I don't get it.
Well, and kind of I don't either. I have actually thought about this off and on, talking with men and women about this subject and others, but it never made sense to me. Women that I've gone out with that have been slut shamed, friends of mine that are female that have been slut shamed, who have done slut shaming.
Yeah.
And it's like, why?
Yeah. Why do you care who they're fucking or how many of them? Right? Why do you care? 2, what business of it is it of yours?
Yeah. If
they're not hurting you or anybody else, who cares?
Right. Exactly.
Who.
So if you had one final pearl of wisdom, if you may, that you'd like to share on the subject, one final kind of just mark on the subject, what would it be?
What, misogyny or sluts or the whole thing? Just I had fun. People looking at me funny. People I know and live near looking at me funny when they read the thing. Like, sluts? I was like, sluts. Yeah. Sluts are awesome. Always have been. That's the reason the human race is here.
I played the sluts in Las Vegas once. Yeah. Won $5 on the penny sluts.
I was about to say, you don't want the quarters that come out of that, No.
Sorry. No, but if you did one kind of just.
If there's one thing I would say to people is be aware and then act on that awareness. If it is, be aware of what's going on around you culturally, right? If you see something that makes you uncomfortable, do something about it. Be aware of what people are doing or acting or talking about when it comes to you in your life. And don't be ashamed about it. Own it, right? Be aware and own it. And I've had disagreements with people. They don't think that makes for grand change. I got news for you. You get one person that's aware and that owns it. And then the people around them see them live their life like that, and it changes everything.
That's the whole cornerstone for just about any movement ever.
That's like,
so I'm with you.
I mean, during this conversation, I have talked about people who I have known and admired, and they have influenced the way I thought and sent me thinking in different directions.
So
that's how you change the world, right? And now I'm on the internet talking about this stuff, and these people don't know anything about it. They were just being them, and they were owning it, and they were enjoying their lives. Be that, and be aware.
So be aware, act, own, don't be ashamed.
Yeah.
So where can they find you again?
I'm on yestess@wordpress.com.
Yestess.wordpress.com.
Yeah, I say that because no one I meet the first time thinks Tess is my real name.
It is, yes. His name is Tess. That's cute. I like that.
They're like, what does that stand for? Your mother. That's what it stands for. No, I think I wrote a post about it sometime early on. But.
Totally eloquent, sorta sappy dude.
Yeah, I'm a nutball. But I'm also a philosopher, and I ruminate on things, and that's usually what ends up on the blog. Occasionally, it's just a series of things that are pissing me off because George Carlin's my hero.
Well,
so every once in a while, you'll just get those little quick
right.
bites. But usually, it's something that bothers me about our culture. The subtitle is Cultural Commentary for the Perpetually Groggy.
There you go.
Right.
I like it.
And I tend to be perpetually groggy, but I know if you're sitting at your computer right now watching this or on your phone, the odds are you're probably more tired than you'd like to be. So I try to fish things out of the culture and talk about the ramifications of them.
So, yestest.wordpress.com. You can find him there. You may find him here again occasionally on Wildcard Wednesday.
Yeah, next time I probably will be frothing at the mouth about something.
That's I kind of look forward to that. But tomorrow, he's out. I'm going to kick him out of here. We're going to bring RJ back. We're going to talk Transformers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk Star Wars.
Oh, is it a movie post?
Yeah, it's pop culture. Stick around. Thursday, Ashton's back. It's me. It's pop culture. It's a whole lot of fun. And if you haven't figured it out by now, like us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Like us on Facebook. Should they subscribe to us on YouTube?
No, definitely.
Do it.
Definitely subscribe on YouTube.
Definitely subscribe to us on YouTube. See you tomorrow.